like I said, we got a ton to go through, so we're gonna kick things off first. So with a couple other things, like I said, couple directors you may know have been laying the smackdown on
Smackdown.
on Warner Brothers and HBO Max ever since they came out and said they're going to be releasing their entire 2021 slates of films, all day and date released on HBO and in theaters, wherever theaters are going to be open, mind you. And some choice directors such as Christopher Nolan being one of them, and then Denis Villeneuve have come out and kind of expressed, I don't know, to put it plainly, their distaste for it, and just pretty much they had some interesting things to say. And I think what I found, before I get into what their quotes were, the most interesting thing that came out of their comments was that, like, Warner Brothers didn't actually plan, like, they didn't discuss this with anybody. Like, when they dropped the news and they announced to the world that they were going to be doing this, I feel like everybody just kind of assumed, like, well, okay, I'm sure they talked to everybody, made deals with them, and like everyone's, it's copacetic. Like, they'd
Yeah.
rather not do it, but the time we're in right now, theaters might not be open, may not be what people wanted to do, but hey, like, whatever. Like, I get it, kind of thing. But
Sure.
apparently not. So, what I found would obviously make me mad as well if I was like Chris Nolan, or, well, I guess Chris Nolan like got his movie out, so he's probably not as affected by it as much as Denis Villeneuve is. And then everyone else having a movie come out in 2021, because like James Gunn also came out and expressed like his feelings about it, which were also negative to say the least. But with the first announcement they made, being Warner Brothers and HBO Max, they said they were going to drop Wonder Woman on HBO Max and in theaters on Christmas Day. They're going to keep that list. And that was the first announcement. Then it was like the next week they came out and said, okay, we're going to do that for all our 2021 movies. And it turns out they made like deals with both Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins to where, to put it plainly, they said, okay, we're going to assume your movie made $1 billion, because I guess they were going to get $1 million per 100 million that the movie would make. So they said, all right, Patty and Gal, we're going to assume Wonder Woman made $1 billion and pay out your bonuses accordingly. So they both got fat $10 million checks.
It's not bad
for them to put the movie on HBO Max. So it's like,
I'd do it.
Yeah, like, okay, like, that's fine. And like, obviously we know Patty Jenkins has been very outspoken about being, just like Christopher Nolan wants her films to be in theaters once, and that's the experience she wants. And most directors are going to want their film to be in. But hey, in this situation, they got paid, they got, at least something out of it, right? So knowing that, and then hearing that Warner Brothers didn't even discuss this or make any sort of similar deals in any way, shape, or form with, a James Gunn, a Denis Villeneuve, and then the laundry list of, there's like 17 movies they announced that they already had coming out in 2021. And none of them got the deal. They all learned about it the same time we learned about it, on Twitter.
I'm just going to be real for a second. It's kind of shitty.
It's very, it's very shitty. Like, definitely not something I would be too thrilled about myself. But let's I'm gonna bring up the quotes here from Chris Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, and then we'll just kind of break those down for everybody. Before I forget, since I hit the wrong button, you guys can submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this out. Do all that stuff too. All right? We're going to get into this now. All right. So Chris Nolan says here, some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find out they were working for the worst streaming service. Ooh. It was
that's some shade.
It was some big words.
Yeah.
Right. That's putting it blunt. Like, then Denis Villeneuve was very similar. He had he released this, like, pretty much he wrote a letter essentially and just gave it to the press. And so I'm gonna read like this. I think this first excerpt here was pretty much the good one, because I don't want to go through the whole thing. This is on Variety, so if you guys want to go through it, maybe I would read it normally, but if you could see how we got like 20 topics to talk about here, so I'm gonna speed through this. But Denis Villeneuve here, which his little, excerpt here confirms that nobody knew about this. He says, "I learned in the news that Warner Brothers has decided to release Dune on HBO Max at the same time as our theatrical release, using prominent images from our movie to promote their streaming service. With this decision, AT&T has hijacked one of the most respectable and important studios in film history. There is absolutely no love for cinema, nor for the audience here. It is all about the survival of a telecom mammoth, one that is currently bearing an astronomical debt of more than $150 billion.
Jeez.
Therefore, even though Dune is about cinema and audiences, AT&T is about its own survival on Wall Street. With HBO Max's launch a failure thus far, AT&T decided to sacrifice Warner Brothers' entire 2021 slate in a desperate attempt to grab the audience's attention." So,
Some choice words.
some very choice words. But I totally get where, him and Chris are coming from. So, like,
Sure.
Yeah.
because at first, like most people, and like I kind of said up the top, you know, no one wants, like, I think most film fans don't want all their movies. Everyone wants to go to the movies. Everyone wants
Yeah.
to go see these movies on the big screen. That's what everybody wants to do. It's about the movie going experience, right? But I understand at this point in time, it's all good. If you got to do it, you got to do it. Put them out in, streaming. We've seen all throughout the pandemic that tons of movies have had to bypass theaters. Just they're not open. Not going to make as much money. Whatever. That's kind of old news at this point. It's almost expected. But man, for them to not
Not even tell him.
tell anybody,
To find out, like you're just reading the tabloid, not tabloid, but like news, and you're like, oh shit, my movie.
yeah,
Like,
that's what's like baffling to me about it. Like, how could they? Like, I don't know. Like, I understand them wanting to do the move. I even understand them wanting to just shamelessly promote HBO Max. I get it. Like, I get that. But I feel like they should have went in and made like a similar deal. Like, obviously, one of the smaller movies that are coming out in 2021, not going to pay them $10 million each for like, per person, like Wonder Woman and Gal Gadot. Because I think their deal was a fair deal. Like, I
Yep.
mean, hell, I'll take a
Yeah.
$10 million check.
sure.
But I mean, I think Wonder Woman, the first one made like $850 million. It was pretty safe to assume it would make close to $1 billion, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Calling it $1 billion so you get a $10 million check is pretty good. Like, that's
Yeah.
a safe bet. So, what do you think about all
Well,
this stuff, John? You surprised at all?
I'm not surprised by the reaction, especially when you're talking about the kind of monetary incentives that a lot of these actors and directors and actresses are uh, foregoing, or they'll be hitting their paychecks because of this. Um, One of the things I hadn't considered, I'm going to butcher the director of Dune's name. I'll just skip it. But the director of Dune, one of the things he said that I hadn't considered, and we've been talking about for months now on this show, is how AT&T doesn't know what they're doing. They I don't know why they bought Warner Brothers at this point. I really don't. Everybody keeps talking about their debt ratio and how much money they owe. Just this week, one of the topics we don't have time to get into, but I'll just mention real quick is they sold off their Crunchyroll. That
Yeah, I
was
don't
part of
know.
the Warner Brothers acquisition. They sold it off to Sony for like $1 billion. And there was talk about how they're selling off these pieces that they don't necessarily want because they need to do something to get their debt ratio back in line. I don't understand why they bought any of this company in the first place. They don't know what they're doing. DC movies have been a mess for God knows how long because of their interference. They're now alienating actors and directors left and right with this move. Even if they get HBO Max steady, even if it becomes as profitable, let's say, as Disney. Let's not say that they can get to Netflix numbers, but let's say they get as stable and profitable as Disney at this point, Disney Plus. What then? I mean, you've alienated all these people, all these creators that people like. Your content is going to start drying up. If they've got movies obviously in production, but who's to say 2, 3 years down the road, these people look at this and go, well, I don't want to get screwed like these guys did. I'm going to go work for Sony or I'm going to go work for Disney. and abandon WB. It's just very short-sighted, very disappointing too. I'm fine with with the idea of putting them on streaming and theaters at the same time, because I think that there are people like me that will choose the theater over the streaming. Um, and I think that movies can still be profitable in that market, but to not have the forethought to talk with people and to not get your ducks in a row before announcing something like this, just is incredibly.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
it's such a rookie move. It's like if it just goes to show yet again that AT&T doesn't seem like they have the first clue of what they're doing with an
To
entertainment
that
business.
point, I was trying to find who it was because I saw in another article because after this article came out where Denis Villeneuve kind of slammed on AT&T, apparently I was trying to find the article where it states this, but it was actually one of Warner Brothers lead executives whose idea this was, and it was apparently like their goal was to position themselves to get in a more viable position on the corporate ladder with AT&T by making this a success. I can't find the article though.
Making HBO Max a success, is that what you're saying? Like
Yeah. Yeah,
establishing.
because like his idea behind it was like if we do this and if I make HBO Max the best streaming service ever,
Sure,
it's gonna look good on me. So my new corporate overlords, because this was a Warner Brothers exec who now has
sure,
to find a way to be useful in the AT&T corporate ladder. So
sure.
apparently it was actually Warner Brothers who did this. It was this I can't remember the name of the guy,
Okay,
but it's a name I know, and I can't find the damn article because I was just as shocked, and it's like, yeah, it's just like it obviously seems like an AT&T thing, but the Crunchyroll thing blows my mind because that was one thing that when I first got HBO Max, I was like, "Oh, dude, this is dope." Like,
What is
that
Crunchyroll?
it's
it's
an
Anime, right?
anime, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
yeah.
a aggregator of a bunch of anime stuff, and they sold it off to Funimation and Sony. Which, I mean, also this
Which,
kinda makes sense in some way that Funimation would have it, but
but it has its own section on HBO Max, so I wonder if
I
there's some
know.
sort of disclaimer in that sale that says we get to continue providing it to our subscribers. I mean, obviously,
I think it's
anime
gone.
is it? Oh
Yeah, I
wow.
think it's gonna
Okay,
actually be gone now because now it's Funimation and Sony, and Funimation has their own streaming app. So,
sure.
like, I don't know, I mean, they might have a clause to keep it for X amount of time, but
Yeah.
that's the thing that was and this goes on with about, like, HBO Max here, for instance, too. Before I forget, I wanna say sorry, someone just knocked on my door here. Let me finish this thought before I forget about it, though. Denis Villeneuve goes on to say here, and one of them, and it's a really good point. Um, I need to switch those buttons because I keep thinking it's that one.
How was that?
It was probably Sarah,
Oh.
but sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt the show, guys. The point being
Live
here,
TV.
yeah, is Denis goes on to say here that streaming movies can produce great content, but not movies of Dune's scope and scale. Warner Brothers' decision means Dune won't have the chance to perform financially in order to be viable, and piracy will ultimately triumph. Warner Brothers might just have killed the Dune franchise. So he's essentially saying that like movies like this, if you want to go back and use, I'll use Blade Runner 2049 as an example, who Denis Villeneuve also directed. These are like Blade Runner 2049 went to theaters and it didn't really perform all that well financially. And like his point kind of is like Dune's obviously not going to make as much money
As it
on
could.
as streaming, like
Yeah.
doing this, and like he had the plan to make a Dune trilogy essentially covering the I can't remember the lead character's name of the Dune right now, but his arc essentially was going to be done in like the 3 movies or whatever. It's going to be each book done in each movie, and like without having like a box office to back it, probably killed the franchise. Like in some ways. It's at the same because that's kind of the thing. It's like I don't know. It just depends on how these streaming services want to. Because we talked about this before too. Like it's a lot harder to see like in a lot of ways, like what movies are making, I don't know, like worth spending $150 million on when they're going straight to streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you don't have like a box office to straight like just back it. You know what I mean? You can't really see it. So I don't know. Like I'm just finding it kind of shocking that they didn't go over this with anybody more so than anything.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really shitty.
So, and I had another thought, and I can't remember now due to the knock on the door, and I'm gonna have to go investigate what that was. So
Yeah.
So guys, the question is, what do you think about all this? Do you agree with Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve here, and are you just as shocked as kind of I guess us? Yeah, but even them, the directors of these big movies coming out in 2021, not even being told by Warner Brothers that their movies are all going to be going straight to streaming. What do you think about this? Let us know down in the comments section below.